Hey Wayne,
Hey, Jason,
how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, Wayne Motts, President and CEO of Gettysburg Foundation. Thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to chat with me.
I appreciate it. I'm happy to try to assist. Maybe we can impart a little bit of wisdom on some folks.
We've known each other for a little while, and it's great to see you there, established at Gettysburg. I know that not only Gettysburg, but the entire Civil War has been a passion of yours and something really important in your career. And I thought maybe we could, before we just dive right into Civil War stuff and Gettysburg stuff, maybe you could share a little bit about kind of going back and just your interest in history and museums. Go as far back as you want and just share with the viewers some of that perspective.
I I appreciate that. I sort of a unique history. I didn't have a normal childhood, as I think people would think. I had an extraordinary childhood. And so I grew up near Central Ohio, near Columbus, near the state capital in a small town called Groveport. It's about 10 miles southeast of Columbus, Ohio. My father was a very successful, one of the top in the world professional photographer. He owned his own commercial studio, but he had huge interest in history. And so when I was in high school, he basically set up a 501c3 nonprofit museum in Groveport. It still bears our name, Motts Military Museum. My father and mother were the founders of that. My mother is deceased. My father is the founding director. My sister is the assistant director.
Okay.
And Jason, I took things to show and tell you'd be jailed for today. Homeland Security would lock you up and put you in jail with the bullets and the bayonets and the fragments and everything I took to class as a young child. My father had these things in our home, and then we established a museum. Huge interest in Civil War, but in military history in general. Motts Military Museum is a museum that preserves American military history and its heritage. And so I would come home from school, and sitting at the table having coffee with my father would be Paul Tibbets, the pilot of the Enola Gay that dropped the bomb on Hiroshima.
Wow.
I'd come and Rob Doremus, who spent 7.5 years in a POW camp in North Vietnam. Sally Farmer, who was a nurse, captured a corregidor in World War II. These were my heroes. And I just got to meet them and live a real part of history. So all my life, I've been interested in it. I went to school, got a degree in military history at Ohio State, got a master's in American history, and
Mm.
became a research historian. And then in 2002, I got my first museum job. So I've been in museum work for 19 years professionally, even though my family helped found the
Hmm.
museum. I became a curator at the Cumberland County Historical Society, a place you and I know quite well, and went to the Adams County Historical Society, was promoted to be executive director there. That's housed here in Gettysburg, and then up to the National Civil War Museum, where I held the position of chief executive officer for 9 years. And I have been here about 3 months as president and CEO of the Gettysburg Foundation, which is the partner helping the Park Service preserve Gettysburg and Eisenhower National Historic Site, and to tell people the significance of that. We own and
Hmm.
operate the main visitor center at the Gettysburg National Military Park, 139,000 square feet. It's the largest Civil War venue museum anywhere in the entire world here.
Hmm.
So I was the little kid that had the cap and the flag, and now I get to be here and make a difference, Jason. That's how I feel about it. I'm very blessed. I'm very
Hmm.
honored. I've got a first rate team of people helping us here. And for my career, I just couldn't ask for anything better because it fits, I think, right in my wheelhouse.
Right.
So I went from collections into executive directorship, museum management, and held that all the way up. As you know, many people in our field come from collections into management. It's not
Yeah.
an atypical track in
Did
our
your
field. But
when
I've
you
got to
were
go into management in these places that have been of my interest since I was a little boy.
yeah when you were spending that time with your dad, did was the curtain pulled back at all in terms of did you get to see some of the behind the scenes management sort of that daily grind type stuff that he had to deal with, or now him and your sister have to deal with, sort of all of the sort of the grunt work, so to speak, of the management of this, or was it mostly the history that you gravitated toward?
Well, I gravitated toward the history, but I've always been sort of interested in museum management. So my dad was a professional photographer, and I just told you he was one of the, and he was professional photographers of America and international as the past president, youngest person ever elected to that. So in his field, he was top of his field, and he knew that he wasn't a museum person. So he went, Jason, to the Chicago Historical Society and talked to the head people. He came here to the Gettysburg Park and said, look, I'm a professional photographer, but I want to do this right. I'm not trained to do it. I want you to tell me how to do this right. And he went to the best museums in the world and asked the directors how to do it. And then came up with that strategy. And he and my sister manage the museum today. It's a small museum. It's only about $250,000. They have 70 volunteers. Most of them are military. They have a lot of benefactors and members there. And it bears our family name, but it's a 501c3 nonprofit museum with the regular operating board. So growing up, I saw all the things that dealt with museum management. Then they got their own building and what that meant. And now today, I kind of find it ironic because now today I'm on the consultant list. My sister is consulting. He calls me up and says, look, here's the issue I have. What would you do? So now it's not just nepotism. It's like, yeah, Wayne's really in charge of the museum and knows something about the history of it. I find the full circle, very interesting.
Yeah. So how did you meander your way to Pennsylvania?
Well, I was very interested in the Battle of Gettysburg and took the battlefield guide test. And when I graduated from school, I was a licensed battlefield guide. My sophomore year of school, I became a licensed guide when I was 21 years old here. I was one of the youngest ever in the history of the National Park Service to hold a federal license here at Gettysburg. And I still do. I've been a guide 33 years. I'm an emeritus guide and on leave now that I'm the head of the foundation here. But I've held a battlefield guide license at National Park in Gettysburg for 33 years. So I was very interested in that. And I was married very young, and I was able to convince my wife, if I could get you a job in Gettysburg, would you move? Well, here we are. We were like Cortez. We burned the ships. We weren't. When he got to the New World, we weren't going to turn back. It was like Gettysburg or bust. And my daughter's 34 years old now. I have 2 grandchildren that live nearby, and so we've carved out a very nice life there.
Yeah. Can you give the lay person the elevator version, if you want, the guide process? How would someone? What does that mean? What kind of training is involved to get certified? What's the sort of the step by step with that?
Well, it's very rigorous. So to charge people for money to guide at Gettysburg National Military Park, there is a code of federal regulations that was set up in 1915. So it's that old, that licensed guides under the federal government, under the Department of Interior. It used to be under the War Department, now it's under the Department of Interior. Okay. It's a very rigorous process. It's a written exam today. It is a panel interview process. It's a guide weekend of training and an oral examination. It's a 4-step process.
Okay.
And of all the candidates that start that process, less than 10% finish it. Basically.
It's like the SEALs, like the Navy SEALs.
It's sort of like being a Navy SEAL, right? I'm not sure. I guess you could, a washout rate, you could probably equate it to that. I wouldn't necessarily equate. There have been 500 and some people that have flown in outer space, and there's been that many licensed guides in the history of this park.
Wow.
That's how rare it is. That's about how rare it is. And there's currently 140 some of them that guide here. So it's a very, very rigorous process. And it was set up to ensure visitors that come here to the park at Gettysburg got a reliable and accurate tour.
Sure.
All the early guides, by the way, Jason, almost all the early guides even before there was a test, because there's battlefield guiding on this park since the date of guns ceased. When people came to the battlefield looking for relatives who were killed or wounded, people showed them around the battlefield. All the earliest battlefield guides were veterans of the Civil War.
Okay.
And,
Is there a visitor experience component to the training and certification in addition to the history, like delivery, how to move people about the site, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there's that in the oral component. Particularly, you go out and give a licensed tour, and a licensed battlefield guide and a National Park Service ranger role play that they're from certain states, and you're to give them a tour as normal people. So yes, there's visitor. One of the battlefield guides always used to say to me, Wayne, it's 90% show and 10% no, and it's still
Yeah.
it's still a lot. That I think you have to have a tremendous knowledge base, but you also have to be able to relate that to people. And if you can't relate it to people, it's like our museum work. You're trying to do that in exhibit. You're trying to take really complex historical themes and subject matter and get it down and distill it, just like you would on a museum label, except you're trying to do it in interpretation on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Like you would in a museum educational program. Same type of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Distilling all of that information down, it can be a challenge. And that, I don't know if you've experienced this where you've been invited to give a lecture and they say, we'd like you to talk about, I don't know, whatever subject it is. And it's a 15-minute presentation.
Yeah, it's
that's
like
almost more difficult.
Talk about the fall of Rome in 15 minutes or something,
Yeah. Yeah. So you have an interesting, a lot of museums, they're a nonprofit, or maybe they're purely government owned, municipally owned, sometimes county owned. There's different governance models out there. You have something that's maybe a little bit unique because you're a nonprofit, but you also have this partnership with the Park Service, correct? Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Sure. So when I became the head here of the Gettysburg Foundation, I think a lot of people wrote and said, Wayne, are you going to stay at the Civil War Museum, and are you giving out money? They hear the word foundation, they think that all we're going to do here is give out money, that we're not running something.
Right.
The Gettysburg Foundation is a 501c3 philanthropic organization that works in partnership with Gettysburg and Eisenhower National Historic Site, as I mentioned, to preserve Gettysburg and Eisenhower National Historic Site, and also to tell the significance of those properties. We have an operating agreement with the Gettysburg National Military Park. We run and own the main visitor center. We have the operating agreement to take the tickets and take funding off of that, and then provide the National Park Service with office space at no taxpayer expense and other such things. We also take care of the cyclorama painting, which is in this building, which was painted in the 1880s. There's only 2 like it in the entire United States. Very rare historical painting. And we don't run the museum per se. The museum is housed in this building, but all the curatorial aspects of the museum are over at the National Park Service. But all the storage of it in the offices is in this building, which we built and raised money for. The visitor center was over $103 million to raise money for this property back it opened in 2008. So it's been open for 13 years. And we support not only the park in the general operations of receiving the visitors here, but also when the national park has a project like clearing Culp's Hill, make it look like it did during the time of the battle, for example, monument repair, things of that nature, educational programming. They have their own educators here, but sometimes we cross program with different streaming and other types of opportunities. So it is a unique model, but I think it's a successful one. And it's also, if your viewers have been to different national parks, look at this visitor center compared to one that is different from here. So we know the federal government is just not going to spend the money on these types of facilities. There are large priorities. So this type of partnership, I think, was really great. And I focus on the care of the artifacts, their presentation, the visitor experience here, which is what the park always focuses on as well, which is to me, it's the one to beat, Jason. It's a first-class presentation here of what we have. So
Hmm.
we like to look in the rearview mirror at everybody here. Anybody who knows me knows that's how I feel about it. I like to be out in front on a lot of things, and I'm just honored to be here as part of this, be the leader
Yeah.
of it.
So do you have for lack of a better term, counterpart with the National Park Service, someone that is sort of the lead on I'm sorry, I'm saying National Park Service, but
Mhm.
at the site, that you is sort of the go-to person that you're partnering with or working with in the leadership role.
Yes, that would be Steve Sims, the superintendent, Gettysburg National Military Park.
Okay.
So he and I are the two heads, so to speak, and then
Okay.
we have our staff. So, for instance, the parks marketing and communications, the communications officer, Jason Marks, I guess communications would be his term, meets, talks to our communications officer when we talk about
Yeah.
things that are there, ticketing, all these aspects. I have regular meetings with superintendent, and then we have a team meeting between the superintendent's senior staff and my senior staff too, as well, on a regular basis. So we have open communication on a lot of these.
Yeah.
And the superintendent and I, his office is just down the hallway from mine, so I see him on a regular basis. But then we also have regularly scheduled meetings. We go over things.
Can you speak a little bit to the fundraising program there at the foundation, and a little bit about how that works and how that relates um, to just the entire site, and communicating clearly with donors, where funds are being used, that sort of thing, and how you go about kind of marketing the fundraising aspect of the foundation. And of course, fundraising is key to any any organization. Would you just talk a little bit about that work that you do?
Sure. So I'm very blessed here to have a philanthropy team. I have a team of people, not just a single person here. The
Okay.
budget here at the Gettysburg Foundation is $14.5 million a year. The main visitor center is the main property we manage, but we also have three other properties here in town, including the railroad station, which we're going to turn into an augmented reality experience. That's the train station that Abraham Lincoln came into when he gave the Gettysburg Address. We also
Hmm.
have a house called the Rupp House, which we've just turned into a kids experience, K-5. That'll open September 4. And then we have a Civil War field hospital that's the best preserved and interpreted Civil War field hospital, I think, in the entire United States. It's
Hmm.
80 acres. We purchased that for $1.8 billion in 2008 and then rehabilitated it. And we have educational programs there. So this is the main property, but we have three others. And the
Hmm.
budget here is extensive, $14.5 million. So fundraising is an integral part of everything we do. We have a fundraising team of people that deal with grants, of course. We also have major gifts that are dealt with,
Hmm.
uh, and individual solicitation. And we have a membership wing here that's probably 15,000 members,
Hmm.
which we have to have people take care of just the members, which is great for us because they're super invested, Jason, in everything we do here.
Yeah.
Like most organizations, we're very wedded to earned income. So we earn from ticket sales here, gift shop, food, all the things that you would think that a museum would. And we're a historical cultural attraction. Like I said, the Park Service takes care of the museum. The museum is a component inside this building.
Hmm.
But we're wedded, like many, to earned income. So when I got here, and even before, we spend a considerable amount of time on donated, solicited income in what we do. We have donated income we solicit for general operations. We have donated income we solicit for targeted projects that we may have, including the Rupp House, including the clearing at Culp's Hill, which is a rehabilitation project
Hmm.
that's there. And we message that in various different ways, including social media, including hard mailing, direct solicitation, sit downs with donors, all the things that you would see. The one added component that we have is we are working as a partner with the federal government. So I have to
Right.
speak to Steve and to federal government to make sure we're adhering to all the rules and regulations for these projects, which are many
Do you,
that are here. But I'm going to tell you, this is a significant building that we need to raise general operating and support money from, just like every museum director would be sitting on it with the expense here that you have inside a 139,000 square foot building. We own this. We don't lease it to the park. We're responsible for capital improvements and repairs
Yeah.
on this building, which is significant here. The heating and cooling of 139,000 square feet, with the museum being a portion of that, in the cyclorama painting, huge expenses when it comes to operating this. And we receive in this building every year, inside the building every year, just under, I think, pre-COVID, 1 million visitors every year.
Okay. So that's
Huge
really,
amount of people.
that's that Mount Vernon level attendance. Yeah.
Okay, if that's what it is, that's where we're at here. So we're in pretty, on a busy summer day, we can have more people in the visitor center than live in Gettysburg. 7,000 people on a pre-COVID day. So huge number.
Do you can you speak a little bit about how sort of your outreach with like-minded organizations, partners, whether it's the Civil War Trust, or I'm thinking places like the National Civil War Museum, or isn't there a medical museum down in Maryland somewhere? Help me out there.
National Museum of Civil War Medicine, which is in Frederick, Maryland.
Yeah. So
and I believe, my philosophy has always been, to people that know me, a rising sea floats all boats. We're not going to be in competition. If you're out there and you're a museum director, you should be looking right now to partner with any organization you can, especially when you go to ask for funds. These organizations want to see you working with other people. So whether you're trying to get a grant, donors love it too. Are you working, not trying to duplicate effort, but trying to complement effort? So Jason, luckily I've got a group of folks here that believe that. We have a ticket exchange program right now where we have discounted tickets off our price and their price at the National Civil War Museum. We partner with the National Museum of Civil War Medicine on medical interpretation out at the Spangler Farm, which is the farm we own. That was a Civil War field hospital. We've just worked with the American Battlefield Trust. We've done some educational videos with them. We gave them a little money, not much in the overall scheme of what they have, but we were able to donate some money to a tract of land they brought nearby here. The Adams County Historical Society, we partnered with them on different levels. So we're in the business of doing partnering and working with other organizations. And I can tell the directors out there, if your internal people are saying, look, if we do this, it could take away something from us, I just don't believe it. And I just think we're all stronger together than we are apart. There's plenty of things to work on, and donors like to see cooperation, and granting agencies like to see cooperation, and it's a much stronger message when you're working together. And I think everybody benefits, including getting more donors, more awareness.
Yeah. I've seen that in the actual, whether it's foundation paperwork or even grant, within grants. I mean, they're very explicit now. How are you partnering? How many people are on your team bringing these initiatives into fruition? So, I mean, that's a good segue to, can you talk a little bit about kind of how you've seen your leadership style evolve, from your time at Adams County to the National Civil War Museum to where you are now? It's just sort of looking, inwardly at kind of your evolution. Can you kind of step back and be outside your body and look at yourself and see how you've evolved over the years?
Yeah. So I've worked in museums at different levels. I had leadership, started out at Adams County Historical Society in 2005. So I've had executive directorship and leadership roles 16 years. Yeah. And I've been at 3 places. So I've had long careers, which I've been blessed with. Jason. Yeah. So when I started in 2005 at the National Civil War Museum, or at the Adams County Historical Society, I have a lot of fondness for that. As the county's official historical society, I'm the director emeritus there. They gave me that title, which I'm happy with for my distinguished service there over the years. That was a $200,000 budget, and I stayed there 7 years. And in 2012, I went up to the National Civil War Museum, and it was about $1.2 million. And I stayed there 9 years. And 3 months ago, I came here, and the budget's $14.5 million. So I like to be hands-on, and I've had to learn over the years to sort of delegate things. I'm a very hands-on person, anybody that knows me. But I think my leadership style has always been lead from the front, lead by example, talk to people, build relationships. I go
Yeah.
downstairs in this place twice a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon, talk to the employees that are down there. This place has 80 employees. Okay, we have over 100 volunteers that are here. So I go down and talk to them, try to call them by name, try to remember who they all are. We've got numerous janitors and everybody working. They're
Hmm.
all working for the benefit of this organization and the benefit of the visitor that comes to this building. And we wouldn't be here without them.
Yeah.
So you can't. I believe in this personal leadership, going down and talking to people, and I've done it my whole career
Hmm.
because it's the right thing to do, not just as something that I would do. And
Right.
I would encourage you. You've got to get out from beyond your office bubble. Get downstairs. And I'm going to say to COVID and Zoom, I'm not a believer in Zoom. I'm not a believer in web technology. We have to do it today because you're down in one place, I'm at another. And
Right.
we should use the technology to our benefit. But when you're a manager and the hands-on talking to people, building these relationships, I don't think any of that's going to change. And the more you can do that, I think the better off you're going to be. And every place I've been successful because I had a successful team of people. In my mind, it had very little to do with me and much more to do with everybody I had worked with. I've worked with the best teams, and your team is going to make you successful. And
Yeah.
without them, you're nobody. And your organization, the only thing you've got to think about is the mission of your organization. Keep that like blinders on a horse and just look at it. And if you keep on that and you keep that straight and narrow and your team is behind you, you can't fail in my mind. You're going to
Yeah.
be successful.
Yeah.
But if you get drug out on all these things that aren't on mission, if you don't have the team behind what you're doing, you're not going to be successful. I don't care what type of leader or how long you've been a leader in that kind of situation. In my view, that's in my personal view.
Yeah. It's easy to get distracted by a lot of bright, shiny things. And there's so many pressures facing the world nowadays, but especially, in our industry, there's so much sort of outside pressure to do this and to do that. And like you're saying, just kind of stay on the straight path and kind of keep that mission front and center. And not that and I know you're not saying this, but not that you're not trying to be innovative or think outside the box.
Right.
Yeah. But I also had a go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You want to do those things. You want to have, a diversity. You want to have wide range of programming. You want to have all of these things. No one is saying don't have these things. Absolutely, you want to have them, but you want to have them, I think, within the context of what your mission is.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you stick to that, everybody's going to say, yeah, let's make it relevant. We'll make it relevant to your mission, what it is, and what you should be doing there. And if you keep going back to that mission, your members, your supporters, everyone will support you because that's what you're supposed to be doing. But no one is saying don't be innovative. No one is saying don't be diverse. No one is saying don't make it relevant. We want all of these things, but we want to do it and make sure, I think, that we do it within the confines of what the mission is. Everybody here laughs at me, Jason, because they said, Wayne, what's your vision? I said, I've got 3 words: Gettysburg, Gettysburg, Gettysburg. That's the mission for this group. And we're going to work on expanding that awareness, expanding opportunity within what that is, in my mind. And I think the institutions and leaders would be well served. There's a reason why you were created, and you should embrace that and keep that and be joyous about that and work to expand it, in my mind.
Yeah, I had a mentor tell me one time. He said, "Jason, there's two ways you can lead an organization. One is through manipulation, and the other way is through inspiration."
Right.
And he was saying, you're never going to be perfect, but just strive at all times to lead through inspiration through example, through joy, through having a real passion for the mission, inspiring others and cultivating that passion in others as best as you can. And yeah, and the time that I've known you, I've seen that that you have that inspirational spark in you, and it's something that I think we should all strive after. Before we wrap up, if you can disclose anything, are there any big plans for the foundation? And maybe it's something, maybe it's a capital project, a big initiative that's going to be unveiled, or you talked a little bit about, the openings of some of the properties, but anything else there that they're thinking about?
So on the horizon, one of the things that we're working with here is the first thing we do here is, since we're a partner organization with another organization, I've asked the superintendent, and we're working on what are the long range interpretive plans here at Gettysburg National Military Park, and what is their strategic plan.
Mm-hmm.
And they're working through that phase. And then we're going to take that over here on our side and take it back to my board, and we're going to work to align goals, because remember, we're fundraising for projects that the park wants. We don't fundraise for projects that's not going to be in their wheelhouse, so to speak, or whatever their top priorities are. Right now for us here, the opening of the Children's Museum, which is September 4 here, huge K-5, marketing that as a children's experience. In the spring of 2022, this augmented reality experience, which I'm very excited about. You're going to go into the train station, put on a set of goggles, and it's going to highlight 3 persons: a nurse who was here at Gettysburg, a free African-American who helped bury bodies here after the battle, and then a Union soldier who was a nurse next to the train station and around in the train station. And you're going to hear their experiences during the time of the battle, which I think is going to be really cool in 3D augmented reality, a new experience to capture new audiences and new learning. And then on the large capital side, this spring, the National Park Service is going to rehabilitate Little Round Top. It's going to be a 12 to 18 month project.
Wow.
And the Gettysburg Foundation has helped raise money toward that project, which will reconfigure the parking lot up there, make sure that appropriate trails for the visitors are put up there. As you know, Little Round Top is probably the most visited site here at Gettysburg National Military Park. Unfortunately, it'll be closed between 12 to 18 months, but once it comes out, it's going to come out anew. And we're hoping that's going to be, I know based on the plans, it's going to be really great to see. And then in the meantime, hopefully visitors will come and see other spots on the battlefield, like Culp's Hill, which we, the Gettysburg Foundation partnered with the park and just cleared out, rehabilitated through there, to make it look like it did in the battle, which has never seen that way before. So the big capital project right now for us over the next 2 years, year and a half, is going to be where Little Round Top is, and these 2 other properties that are on site there that you see. And then someday, it's not going to be immediate, but long term, we're going to have to look to revision the visitor experience here, because that's 13 years old now here, our film, our movie. But that would be a massive capital project to raise money down the road for us here, Jason. That's what we're thinking about long term. Visitor experience.
Yeah. Well, you probably have to, if you haven't done it already, you probably have to make your visit downstairs, your afternoon visit. But before we wrap up, we got a lightning round, a fun lightning round to get to know Wayne Motts a little bit better. So these are tough questions. I hope you're ready.
I'm ready.
So you're on a trip to Ohio. Would you rather drive the whole way, or would you rather ride the whole way?
I would rather drive the whole way, because I get car sick.
All right.
Could you tell I like to be in control, Jason? That's bad.
I thought you'd like that one.
Yeah. If I sit in the front seat, I can ride. But if I have to ride the back, I'm not very good. So.
All right. So can you give us a hobby or an activity or something that you just don't think anybody knows about? something you do at home, something you like to do, that just a hobby or an activity, you just think there's no way anyone knows about this?
Well, I'm not sure anybody would know about it, but they may not know about it. So I I break for all dead people. I love to cemetery stomp. I'll go into any cemetery
Okay.
and look at the tombstones and look around and visit graves and learn a lot. I love to visit old cemeteries. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah, and you can begin to see names and how they're interconnected and the web of names and the dates and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, my job is my hobby. I often look, oh, there's a Civil War veteran, and I'm interested in seeing what units they come from, and so I love to do cemetery research and research dead people. I break at all cemeteries.
Okay. And then finally, this one's really tough. You have a choice. You're going to go out to like a five-star restaurant with a 10-course meal and go through all of those motions, or you're going to go down to the local hole in wall and get a nice hamburger. What do you decide to do?
Yeah, U.S. Grant once said that if it walked on 2 feet, he didn't eat it, and that's how I. I don't like chicken and I don't like turkey, so I will go with the hamburger every single time. Everybody here knows I'm a meat and potatoes guy, Jason. So everybody knows. Everybody knows that I don't like chicken and I don't like turkey. So I'm good to go for
Wayne, this has been a lot of fun, and I think that folks are going to really enjoy hearing your story and what you're doing there, and all the good work that the foundation's involved with. And I appreciate you as a colleague and as a friend, as a mentor. And I hope we can meet up again sometime soon.
I hope we can too. And Jason, I really appreciate, on behalf of myself personally and Gettysburg Foundation, for allowing me to be part of this. To me, there's no more exciting time than be in our field. I know we have many challenges. I know many of our colleagues are out of work right now. There's a lot of concerns out there, but this country needs history education. They need museums.
Yeah.
They need this type of public education. And there's no better time right now for us to drive home these things that are so important to us. And there's no better time it's needed than right now. So
Yeah.
for our professional museum people, educational people, public history people, I would encourage folks, don't get discouraged. Don't get discouraged. Just stay the course. And when we come out of this, it's going to be, everybody knows that this type of education is what everybody needs. So
Yeah.
I would stay. Thank you for all you're doing as far as promoting all of this.
Sure. All right, Wayne. Well, you have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Take care.
Okay, bye.